Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching the Demi Lovato documentary. I'm going to react to it. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's watch.
Dancing with the Devil is incredible, although it's so painful to listen to.
Dancing with the Devil can be really scary when I think back to the person that I used to know my sister as, but I don't think the person my sister is now dances with the devil.
So, Amy Winehouse had, I think, similar kinds of songs, Sober for one, that were very telling when we look back at her life. Now, when we look back and you listen to Amy Winehouse's music, you see, and I'm actually an Elliott Smith fan, if you're familiar, there's similar kinds of things. You look to the lyrics and you can hear this story being told where the artist's death, it's almost like it's obvious when you see the story. And why did we not do anything for that individual? We saw it coming. They were writing it into their music, and they were making the excuses for themselves in their music. Are we watching that right now? She's writing a song called Dancing with the Devil, and that is what she is likely doing, dancing with the devil. We understand that Demi might be playing with fire, that she's saying, I almost died, I had brain damage from overdose. Now that I'm on this substance, I can't use opiates anymore. So everything's fine. So I can use alcohol, I can use marijuana, and everything will be fine. Will we see something terrible happen to her? And we will think back to this song, Dancing with the Devil, and will we say to ourselves as an audience, how come we just watch this? Now, the other thing is, what are we supposed to do as an audience? Even if we wanted to do something, what can we do? Well, you could tweet her, I suppose, but what's that going to do? I mean, she's on her own path. And even if you were close to her, if you were her best friend, what are you supposed to do? You can't tell her. This is her path. But what's happening? Are we watching someone self-destruct before our eyes? It's tempting to look at the situation as she has rebirthed herself, that she has struck a balance, that everything is different this time. How do we know? We don't know, and we'll just have to find out. But if you're a big fan of Demi, which I'm guessing you are if you're watching this, I would prepare yourself for the possibility, I can't predict the future, no one can, of something scary happening. And so you have to deal with that reality for yourself. You don't want to be blindsided by something that's quite possibly going to happen.
Your friends and family say you're the best liar, and you've said similar things in the past, that you're done with hard drugs. So why is this time different?
I haven't relapsed in drugs and alcohol. That's something that I'm very proud of. I decided to drink, and I made that decision to find balance, and I've been doing awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're showing this. So I'm guessing she's had a number of times around this cycle. Now I'm guessing this time she's saying, but this time I'm taking that drug that makes it so that I can't use opiates. But that might not actually help in the long run. Plus, there are other substances that she could take that could kill her. So we're hearing the exact same thing just 2 years before, and then after this point, one hypothesis or one conceptualization is because she was allowing soft drugs into her life, it eventually led to her overdosing on heroin and very nearly killing herself and having permanent brain damage afterwards, or what seems to be permanent brain damage. So how would we know that this time that she's allowing substances into her life and not doing what I'm guessing are the recommendations for her treatment? How do we know that this time she's fine? And that last time she wasn't okay, but this time she's fine. How do we know? If I were Demi, I would at least try to contemplate. I would just raise that question. That would be one of the things that I do with clients, because I'm not a drug and alcohol treatment counselor, and so I wouldn't really blast people with stuff like this. But I would just say, is there a question mark? If Demi were my client, I would say something like, do you have a question mark there? Is there a question mark in terms of, do you know for sure that this time allowing substances into your life is going to be okay? Do you question that at all? Because if she didn't question it, If she had a really dubious story as to why this time it was different, I would tell her. I would say, so I'm just going to tell you that the narrative you just told me as to why this time it's different, I'm not sold. And I'm not in control of you, but I feel as a clinician I have to tell you that I'm not a believer in that narrative. I'm a believer in you, but I'm not a believer in that narrative. And I wouldn't be surprised if in 2 years we look back at this time right now and you will say that I was deluding myself. But, I'm not your family member, but I am a clinician and I am responsible for telling you what I believe to be true. And I believe that your narrative there doesn't make sense. So I'm guessing we're going to hear what Demi's narrative is in this moment.
Sense. The one slip up that I ever had with those drugs again, the scariest thing to me was picking up heroin and realizing, wow, this isn't strong enough anymore, because what I had done the night I overdosed was fentanyl. And that's a whole other beast.
True. Yeah. We didn't hear that part of it, but that's definitely true. And I'm guessing what her narrative is I'm on the substance now where it blocks the receptors for the opiates. So I'm good there. And I'm just going to avoid fentanyl and everything will be okay. It's possible that's true. It's also quite likely it's not true. It's quite likely that she can ruin her life on any substance.
I have full faith that you're not going to open up TMZ and see another overdose headline. But I also say this with humility, that this is a very powerful disease. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm invincible. I have to work every day to make sure that I'm in a good place so that I don't go to those things. Time.
So that's good that she is admitting that, and she's in that space of, look, every day, she's saying, I know, I'm a little worried that she says, I know you're not going to see a TMZ headline that I overdosed. She's saying, I know that. I don't know how she could possibly know that. She's in early recovery, and as far as I can tell, she just has a therapist and a case manager. But she's saying she's doing a lot, and I'll take her word for it, that maybe she has a whole individual system that she does. Maybe her individual therapist is helping her a lot with that sort of thing. I don't know. So let's hear what she says here.
And trust is the only thing that will work for people, and over time you'll see that, like, I'm good. You can't change someone's mind who thinks that I'm a junkie, and I will always be one. I'll just have to show them differently.
Are you worried about it?
I worry. I'll always worry. Whether she smokes a joint or not. I mean, I would worry anyway.
Yeah, I'm always gonna worry. There's no way not to.
Nothing she's doing right now at this moment is gonna put her back in the ICU. I feel like she's got everything under control.
I beg to differ. Maybe it's just because I've had clients die from overdose who talked like this. I've had clients pass out almost dying, or they almost died right outside my building. I had a client who, after our session, went to the bathroom, shot up, got out my building, and passed out and almost died. And the only reason why she lived is because it was in broad daylight of a lot of people in midday, and someone called 911 and an ambulance came and saved her life. I didn't know any of this was happening. It was right below my window, but I didn't notice. She came in like a week later and she said, "So sorry about last week." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Well, this happened." So I've seen a lot of different things, and so maybe that's why I'm terrified and I'm not as confident as her family is. I understand why they would want to be confident, because the alternative is to be constantly terrified all the time, and maybe even angry at her that she's putting herself at risk. So, I get it for sure, but she's in such early recovery. I can't see how anyone could have any confidence in her solution, especially since she's still using. There are, the Elton Johns of the world and the people that are the abstinence-only people in the world, they're just looking at Demi and just going like, you ain't sober. You're not in recovery. You're not even relapsing, because that requires sobriety. You're still using. You've never stopped using. You're still using. You are not beyond the threshold. You are still in it. You're still in the war. That's the reality. Now, who knows? Maybe she's found a balance. Time will tell.
And that's just how I feel right now.
My sister has prevailed time and time again.
She knows her limits. And I know her. At the end of the day, I just hope she knows that, like, I'm always here for her. I have her back.
I think this is the first time that I could comfortably, not that I would, but I could comfortably walk away with full trust and faith in you.
So, as with Amy Winehouse, the team around her is monetarily incentivized to keep her making money, because when Demi makes money, they make money. And they might actually benefit. I'm not accusing them of anything, so I have no idea. But there is a possible incentive to her team to prop her up and say yes to the alcohol, yes to the marijuana, because it gets her on stage, it gets her recording, because there's another path. If she were to fully go into recovery, she might actually not, she might not be able to produce anything that will make money. She might not be able to, if she were fully in recovery, eating disorder recovery, trauma recovery, drug and alcohol recovery, she might actually determine, I can't do anything performance-wise because it's so triggering to me. I'll be triggered, my eating disorder will be triggered, my traumas will be triggered, I'll be stressed out, and I'll end up using substances. And so I can't do anything for 5 or 10 years or a year or something. So her team around her, either knowingly or not, is incentivized to encourage her to keep going. I just have no idea if that's true, but it was true for Amy Winehouse, and it's just another worrisome factor to me. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Tune in next time when I continue with the documentary, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.